So today we are talking about motherhood, whether you're thinking of having children, whether you've made the decision not to have children, whether you already have kids and you're trying to run a business or a career, whether you're thinking about having another baby and whether you can or you can't. We're going to talk about motherhood and career and again, all things around it, whether you have kids or not, thinking about kids, thinking about adding to kids, all of that, regardless of what decision you make or what stage of life you're in or what is going on, this is going to affect your career. This is going to affect your business. This is going to affect you and who you are and how you move through the world and how people perceive you. We don't want to deny that. So today's episode, we're going to unpack this a little bit more, and I want you to also think about how do you want to go through the world treating people around this topic. We're not going to have any right or wrong answers today. We're just going to have a bit of a yarn together and have a bit of a chat around it, because I think it's really important to reflect on this for all of us. And I'm just going to share some of the things that I see in the therapy world, or things that I've seen working with really high performing women at a top level, whether they're business owners or women in corporate or starting a business. I really try to share some of the experiences that we all go through, even myself as a mum of two, and having to make really difficult decisions around that. So let's get into today's episode.
I'm Australia's leading burnout therapist, Sheena Shuey. I'm Australia's leading burnout therapist, Sheena Shuey, live from
Anxiety is not something that happens to you, it is something that happens for you.
Sheena, it is so nice to have you. I'm going to get straight to the point. What does burnout mean?
Oh, that is a really big question.
Motherhood. Whew. Let's start with, if you're deciding not to have kids, or maybe you have someone on your team who doesn't have kids or doesn't want to have kids. This is a really difficult decision to make for a lot of people, and it also can come with some stigma as well. And something that comes up a lot around the decision not to have children is around time. This is a really tricky one in the workplace, and I am not going to give any right or wrong answers today or what my thoughts are, because I don't really know clearly what my thoughts are. I always try to be open to different opinions, and so I don't like to have a solid idea on this. But something I do see come up a lot in teams, workplaces, is the ideas around, if someone chooses to have kids or not have kids, should they be given the same amount of leniency and time? So a lot of people who choose not to have children, including yourself, if you're choosing not to have kids, is why is it that Margaret, who has 5 kids, gets to start a little bit later or finish earlier, or gets first pick around holidays and gets school holidays? There seems to be more leniency around that. And this is something that can cause difficulties and dynamics in the workplace, because sometimes it can feel unfair of your life choices affect your time, and because I'm choosing not to have kids, I don't get those same privileges either. On the flip side of that, there is this idea of choosing not to have children doesn't mean you live in a child-free world. And so again, there's those discussions too around people who have children. Children are part of life and a part of the cycle of life. And so we need to make leniencies so that children can have adequate support from their parents, because again, as little as 50 years ago, women would have children and support those children with their growth and with their development. And now, due to the cost of living, women have to work, even if they would prefer to just be rearing children. So, there's a lot of discussion and interesting things happening around it. But another interesting topic that I want to kind of just get you thinking about or talking about, because I think this is a little bit controversial on my end too, is I have met many women who are high achievers and go-getters, and they have clear ideas on, I've always wanted 4 kids, or I want to always have several businesses, and not being realistic about their time or how they're going to run all of that together. And this happens a lot. I know someone's out there listening going, Sheena, did we talk about this, or are you reading my mind? I promise you, I have had this conversation so many dozens of times at this point, where someone is talking to me and they're literally having to schedule in sex, okay? They are so busy that they don't have intimacy or connection with their partner. They barely have time to go to the bathroom or think about things. They are not seeing their friends and family. They don't have a balanced life right now. And then they say they want to add another baby into that mix, or another business, or both at the same time, or another house, whatever that looks like. And that's the thing of the high achiever, the go-getters in life, is this constant need for growth and more, which can be a good thing. It's not a bad thing to be ambitious and want more and want those things. On the flip side, what's the point in having those things if you do all of them badly? So what's the point in having 5 kids if you spend no time with any of them? You're not present with any of them. You aren't taking care of yourself physically, financially, emotionally, spiritually. You're not connecting with your partner, right? Like really getting down to, what's the motivation here? Why do I truly want to add to my life? And what does good motherhood look like? What does motherhood look like for me? And am I willing to sacrifice my time, my money? Because I'm telling you right now, if you're having to schedule in sex or connection with your partner because it's not happening naturally, how in the world are you going to fit a baby into that schedule? And are you going to be able to let go of working so much to be able to be present for that child? Like, these are important questions I want you to ask yourself, because often I've seen this happen too, where women overwhelm themselves and everything falls apart. Their mental health falls apart, their business falls apart, their career, their relationship, everything is crumbling because they weren't asking themselves important questions before. Really getting real with yourself, right? Because motherhood is one of the most joyous, wonderful things you can ever do. It's also the hardest thing most people will ever do. It brings up your childhood wounds for sure. It emphasizes what's already there. So I talk about money emphasizing what's already there when you get a large amount of money. Parenthood, becoming a parent, emphasizes what's already there because you're putting a pressure cooker on what's already there. So let's say you decide to have another baby. It's going to emphasize all the cracks in your relationship, how much we communicate or not communicate, how much we trust or don't trust each other, how good our intimacy or connection is or isn't. It's going to emphasize all of that for sure. And it's either going to turn out better or worse, but it is going to bring that up. Motherhood brings up oh, I'm noticing I parent this way. Why wasn't I parented like that? I love in this way. Wasn't I loved like that? I'm making a time and effort to spend time with my child and play with my child. Why didn't I get that? I don't play favorites with my children. Why did my parents play favorites with us? I don't put my problems onto my children. Why did my parents put problems onto me? It will bring up old stuff. Again, pressure cooker, what's already there. It will bring up the stuff in your business or career. If you're burning out at work, it'll bring that up even more. You think, oh, I'm going to have a rest and maternity leave. Anyone who's had kids knows maternity leave is not a rest. It is an adjustment period where you're focusing on kids rather than work, but for sure it is not a rest. So there's that. But again, if your business has financial pressures or difficulty getting leads or lack of processes and policies and procedures, it's going to emphasize all of that. If everyone relies on you in your team at work or in your business or even in your life, your family rely on you heavily for day-to-day life, and you have a baby and you can't do those things as much, it's going to emphasize that, and people are either going to adapt and grow or it's going to fall apart. But that's the thing, is that having a baby is a huge life transition and shift because it brings everything to the surface and you have to address it. And similarly, if your mental health isn't in a great place, it will bring up the issues around that, the lack of taking care of yourself, your lack of insight, any negative self-talk you have. It's really going to bring that up, which is again why it's not a bad idea to engage with the therapist or work with someone around conceiving or thinking about kids, or even after having kids, because it brings up so much. And we don't know this. Like, I did not know that that was going to be the case when I had kids, for sure, right? And even in my own motherhood journey, having to deal with going through separation and what does that look like? I've had to deal with working for myself as a business owner and having to provide financially for my kids with the ups and downs. It's one thing to have highs and lows in business when you don't have kids or you have one kid, but when you've got two kids and they rely on you, because I'm separated now and they rely on me, having to make hard decisions in business or career around what's best for my nervous system right now, what's best for my kids right now, what's best for our long-term financial plans right now. All of that can come up. So recognizing that and recognizing what you need as a person to be a good mum, and what does a good mum mean to you? Is it someone who plays with their kids and is present with their kids? Is it someone who spends time with their kids? Because I know lots of mums who only have limited time because they have to work. Like, we're not shaming anyone for working full time. That's the reality of the world we live in financially a lot of the time. But when you do spend time with your kids, what are you like? Are you loving, caring, present? Are you on the floor playing with them? Or are you answering emails, being stressed out, yelling, angry? Because we've all been both versions. But how do I be more of the version I want to be and the person that I want to be when kids are in the picture? Because they will emphasize everything. And every time you add another child into the mix, this will come up. And then also for those of you who don't have children, understanding that's the world of the people who do have children. That is what they're going through on top of raising the child themselves and the financial burden around it. Because again, I did not know what parenting was going to be like before becoming a parent. Even listening to this, if you're listening to this and thinking of becoming a parent, and I'm giving you some of the ups and downs and highs and lows, it'll never prepare you. I laugh at myself because I was working as a therapist with children And so I was working with a lot of families, a lot of complex stuff, having to give parenting strategies. And I did the best I knew at the time with all the knowledge I had. But I look back and I go, damn, after becoming a parent, whew, I know so much more, and I would have been so much more understanding of the parents and the follow through and the fatigue and everything. But again, we talked a lot about big stuff here. I want to remind everyone, you make your own decisions for yourself. Like, being a parent is by far the most wonderful thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm sure if you become a parent, you will do that too. And your parents would have made sacrifices for you, and they would not change that. I would not change that, right? But you don't know what you're getting into a lot of the time. And the world at the moment feels like it's constantly changing. So change on top of life transition is hard, but you've got to be realistic about, what do I need to be the best version of myself? And how can we support that? And what are we willing to sacrifice on? What parts of our identity are we willing to change and let go of to make this a reality? So again, if you want to have more time with your kid, but you recognize you might need to move to a cheaper, more affordable house or whatever, are you willing to let go of the ego around the big fancy house so you can have what you really want, which is time with your child and less financial pressure, but it means a little bit of a less flashy, showy kind of lifestyle? Or if that's important to you, if you want a very beautiful, comfortable environment, and you know that that calms you and it brings you a sense of security and it calms your nervous system, that is beautiful as well. And that's what you want. And be realistic about, I don't know if I'm willing to give that up for a child. I don't know how much having a family or being a mum, if that means more to me than being regulated and calm and all of those things. So no right or wrong answers, no best case scenario, worst case scenario. We're just talking about the ups and downs, because I think this is important to remember people's choices around having kids, not having kids, how many kids they have, what they're going through behind the scenes, and how in workplaces and in business we can support people who have kids or don't have kids too. Like, this is all just discussion points, thinking points that we all should be having in mind, and being empathetic towards each other and recognizing each other's decisions. So with that, I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I will see you in the next episode of Burnout to Brilliance.